everybody, welcome to the Bridge the Gap podcast. Also get us up on YouTube. We have one of our favorites joining us again on the podcast. Made his debut this summer. A fellow low stakes grinder like myself. Our buddy, friend of the show, friend of the site, William Bierman. Our boy Will, CSManiac. Will, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Awesome, man. It's been it's just crazy how much time flies. I know when we first did this over the summer, we were talking about getting together, and we had a chance to break some bread and watch a football opening weekend. And when I was still living in Austin, so that was awesome. And now here we are with basketball season. It's just crazy how much time flies.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. I'm happy basketball season's here, away from MLB. Did not have a very good MLB season. And NBA's been going well.
Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk about because I'm actually experiencing the inverse, and I don't really want to piss and moan about, it's crazy as much as like we can get up into our heads about this thing. Like, it hasn't even been a month. Like, today is the end of the first month of NBA season. We still have like 5 or 6 months because I'm getting most of the messages I'm getting these days like, dude, I'm struggling. What's up with NBA? And I'm like, I'm feeling it too. So let's talk about first with baseball season. When something isn't going well for you, for somebody that's had as much success as you have, how does your process change from, hey, this isn't working out, should I keep going? Should I scale back action? Am I wasting my time? So just walk us through what that's like for you, because I know that that's a mental struggle for a lot of us when things aren't going well.
Yeah, I mean, for MLB, MLB is not really a sport that I take as seriously as I probably should and put that much work in it. And like toward the end of the season, I was just doing like tournaments and it was just not working out. So like probably the last month I just kind of just stopped playing I mean, I focused more on I started moving into player props and strikeout props and doing that instead of doing the DFS side.
And I remember you had mentioned that the last time. So talk to us a little bit about what you're looking for. And when you say player props, we're talking about over-unders on strikeouts. Are you playing any other player props or just focus on the pitchers?
I was just pretty much focusing on the pitchers. It's easier to do. I mean, the way I do a lot of betting, obviously, but I think player props are far more easy to predict than betting on spreads or money lines, because when you're betting on spreads and money lines, obviously it's a team effort. You have to rely on the whole team to do whatever, cover as many points. But with player props, you're just focusing on one guy, and that's it. So it's a lot easier, I believe, to do that than to do regular betting as per spreads and money lines and stuff like that.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. And focusing in on the pitchers, are you more inclined to go after bad pitchers and hit their under, or are you going to back guys like Scherzer and Verlander and their overs on strikeouts, guys like Garrett Cole, or are you just focusing on what presents the most value?
Probably most value. It's a mixture of both. I wouldn't say really focus on either side more than the other.
Now, are you able to carry this over to basketball or football props?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. I'm in currently the NFL Super Contest, even though this is betting spreads. For DraftKings, I'm doing well in that. I have done some NBA player props so far this season, and NFL as well.
So the DraftKings, it's $1 million guaranteed, $250,000 to first. Their betting contest. Now, is this similar to the Super Hilton Las Vegas Super Hilton contest where you pick 5 against the spread every week?
Yeah, it's pretty much very similar to the same thing. What was nice about it was I think it was a little bit poorly advertised. So there is a ton of overlay in this contest. I don't know if too many people heard about it or whatever, but you could only play if you were in New Jersey. And I get a lot of people obviously don't have that luxury. And so You don't have to pick five every week. You could go weeks without picking a single team. You could go weeks picking 10 teams. So it's just important to be really selective. And so far, right now, I believe I'm in like 50th with 25 picks remaining, and have hopefully a good shot at like top five or first.
So that's interesting. So how many picks do you have for the whole season to use?
You get 70, 70.
Okay, wow. Okay, so I'm looking at the standings right now, and yeah, I see you here, and it looks like most of the guys around you have already used most of their picks. So,
Yeah.
are you letting the value come to you, or did you map out the season beforehand of where you could find some potential angles? What's been your strategy for this so far?
Pretty much just looking for value. Lines are released, on Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever. So lines obviously move depending on injury, and just important to being very selective on what you choose, and pretty much going from there.
Is there anything that you like getting action from more than others? Like, I know a lot of guys love home dogs. Some people like betting the Thursday night game. Other people like betting, an NFC team traveling to an AFC team because that game doesn't matter as much in the standings as the conference games do. What's some of the stuff that you look for that piques your interest, that triggers you to start diving deeper on a game?
I don't really think I have any interest. I think it's important to kind of just remain neutral. I feel like every event is so, it like you could look at trends, but I don't think trends are really that important. Like every team's so different, the different teams every year, different injuries. So it's like it's really hard to look at trends and like be like, oh, this team is like 0-3 against the spread at home or whatever. But every team is a different setting versus, it's completely different. So it's hard to look at trends like that and see and think that's useful rather than just, noise.
Yeah, that is one of the things that's always like made me laugh about sports betting is you'll see one of these guys with their 800 numbers for free picks, and it's all a marketing scheme. And for those who aren't familiar, basically what they do is they'll give out a phone number, I'll call it, and they'll give me the Texans tonight. Will call it, and they'll give him the Colts. So one of us is going to be happy.
That's exactly. Yep.
And the happy guy is going to come back and give them their money and think they're going to win, and then they lose and they just pawn you off on some hotline. It happened to me about 12 years ago. So, but those guys are like, this team, when they travel in on Friday nights and they're playing at 10 a.m. and they're wearing their white road jerseys, 10-0 against the spread since 1982. It's like, dude, this does not matter. That is like such bull crap. Well, that's exciting, man. So are you gearing up to how are you going to use your remaining picks? Does this go into the NFL playoffs or just goes to week 6, 17?
It goes, I believe, until week 17, until December 30th. I mean, looking at it right now, the week looks pretty tough. I might not even use any picks this week. But I mean, I do have a couple other entries. It was 3 entry max. They were $500 each. And so, but the other entries weren't doing too well, but this one has a pretty good chance. So it's important to probably stay more focused on this and go from there.
That's exciting, man. Do you have to use all 70 of your picks? Because it looks like you're only about 8 behind the guy that's in first. So could you pass him and stop?
I mean, you don't have to use all your picks, but I mean, it's not like you get negated. It's not based on a percentage. It's based on how many picks you get right. So if you get a wrong pick, you're not losing anything, like, so yeah, I mean, you have to use all your picks.
That's fascinating. This is a great, I mean, DraftKings does some stuff that I didn't even know this existed, and it was brought to my attention. And you and I are kind of chatting about it. And this is the first chance I've had to dive in. Like, if this is what the future of sports betting looks like, this is much more appealing to me than just betting, like you were saying, everything, when you bet a team, everything has to go right. A lot of these teams are, they're not looking to cover the spread. They're just looking to win. So, a game like tonight with a 3.5 point spread, the Texans could win by 2 or a field goal and you still lose. It's tough sledding, man, but I like this format a lot.
It is spread though. It is spread.
Right. But this is the tournament style versus just trying to grind out 53% against the spread kind of a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the thing was I think it overlaid almost $1 million if I'm correct. Yeah. because I believe there's 987 people, and it was a $2 million prize pool. So I think that's right. If my math is right. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And that's the thing that it's like, I think, as a low stakes grinder, you're just always looking for those edges. And I think that's one of the things that you're very strong at is finding all of the edges, whether that's with DFS or sports betting or player props. I think it's very easy to want to, throw our hat into the ring with the big stuff and chase the glory. But it's like, those, base hits, consistent base hits to keep you in the game long enough to hit a home run. That's just awesome, man.
Yeah, the same thing pretty much goes like staying in low stakes or whatever. Like NBA season's been going pretty well for me, and I've had a few wins in the mini max, but every single day I pretty much wind up playing the same amount. I think I said this on the last podcast too. I pretty much never change the amount I play any day, whether I have a big win or a big loss. And I think that's important for a lot of people to do, is just to stay consistent. I know sometimes it's really hard. Like if you have I don't know, like you lose, you kind of like, this is more, I guess, geared toward cash. But if you have losing day, like a couple losing days, you just quit. But always got to stay consistent, I think.
Yeah, that's a struggle for me, man, because what you just said is something that I know, and I think that's, as DFS players, we can get in trouble when we do things that we know better, but we do it anyway. NBA has been my strongest sport for years and years and years, and I had a good baseball season, so I open up NBA season on a 2-game slate, and pretty much the first full month playing the same amount of volume that I'm playing for baseball, and just got my ass handed to me, and it's like, you can sit there and be upset about it, but it's like, it's pretty much my fault. I know that some of the projection sites are struggling to adjust to the new rotations and whatnot, but the amount of money that I put in play is 100% my problem. I did the same thing with football, and it's like, hopefully I learned my lesson for baseball this year, this next year.
I think a huge problem, and I talked to you a little bit about this beforehand, is the pricing on DraftKings this year. I know a lot of other people that are struggling. I think the pricing is extremely bad on. I don't think I've seen it this bad before on DraftKings. Like every player, I think, is way underpriced, and they take massive price drops. If a player has a bad game, that player price, their whatever algorithm DraftKings uses, that player will be dropped like $400 or $500. If they have a really good game, then the player will be increased by like $1,000. But they just keep increasing and decreasing these players, and when these players get injured, leads to massive chalk. And I think that's a really big problem. Is you can't make a mistake. It's if you're especially in cash or whatnot, because the value and multi position eligibility, that if you make a mistake, you're screwed. If you look at yesterday's slate, which was an 11-game slate, there was probably about maybe 10 to 15 people, maybe over 35% owned, which is nuts for an 11-game slate. You think of an 11-game slate, you're like, all right, let me get this edge or whatever. But when you're seeing that many people, this is tournaments, this isn't cash. You're seeing that many people so high owned, it's a problem.
And that's something that I've noticed also. That's it's pretty irritating. I mean, we see this in the NBA playoffs. A lot of players that play NBA, a lot of the casual players that play NBA have quit by the time the NBA playoffs rolls around, but they're excited to play again. So DraftKings drops the pricing, and there's not as many options. So you have to level the playing field a little bit. And then the other thing that we're seeing is what we see a lot of the times in April, when these teams are in full-on tank mode and they're just playing whomever. And It's a combination of both, and it's very challenging. So I just want to encourage people that are struggling, just hang in there, because there are people that are figuring it out, and this is an opportunity for us to adapt. If you don't adapt, we talk about it all the time. There's guys that were killing the game a few years ago that are nowhere to be found, and so I think what Will's recommending is very, very sharp as far as the pricing is ridiculous. Are you noticing the same pricing trends on FanDuel? I know you pretty much just play cash on FanDuel, but
Yeah.
what's it like over there?
No, I think FanDuel actually does a really good job at pricing. Their pricing is very sharp, and which I believe is better. But it's weird. I mean, it's completely different for every single person, whether how you play it out. I play cash on both sites, but I only play tournaments on DraftKings. I don't know why. I I struggle with tournaments on FanDuel, but tournaments on DK seem easier, but cash seems harder on DraftKings. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Um, but it's just yeah, it's important to just like figure out what suits you the best and what you can do, I guess.
I mean, it makes sense to me because if you think about it, on FanDuel, there's not the multi-positional eligibility. You have to play certain guys at certain positions. So for a cash game perspective, where the pricing is sharp, you're just going to want to just make the right plays. But on DraftKings, DraftKings, it's like every single night, like you can play Harden, you can play Towns, you can play Embiid, and it's just like when you have that high of a ceiling with those kinds of studs. In the past, we've only been able to play like two of those guys, maybe.
Yep.
And then the rest of your lineup is suffering where, if you are starting pretty much, starting with 200 points and you have a guy that busts, plus we're seeing all this chalk, and it's just like, I need to do something different, man, because I'm just getting crushed by, having these guys like Amari Spellman, these scrubby guys that are supposed to get 30 minutes, and then it's just very frustrating right now. So what have you done, if anything, differently from last year? Because it just seems like for those of us that are hitting landmines, you've just been coasting and just picked up where you left off last year.
Uh, I don't know if it's anything different. It's just kind of, I think maybe, I mean, since players are higher owned, is in tournaments, probably I'm going way higher on players than what I would normally do. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Like even chalk players, like people will complain about chalk and whatnot, but in NBA you have to play some chalk. You're not winning with you're not winning a tournament with like all like 2% owned guys, and because of the pricing and whatnot. So I have no problem like just like slamming certain guys that like I know are going to be high owned. Like even if they are high owned, like I don't care. I think because of the pricing and the position, like I don't think it matters too much. So I think probably this year is just just going higher, like maybe like 70, 80, 90. I've got nights where I'll take 100% of a guy, because I believe at his price he'll be in the top lineup. And it's worked out sometimes, it hasn't worked out sometimes, but it's just just so much multi position where it's almost like you're taking like 8 utility spots at some nights. Like any night you can look at it, there'll be more players that are multi positional than players that are have one position.
Well, yeah, I remember, just as a few years ago, it was a big deal when you had Giannis getting point guard and power forward eligibility. Like that was a big deal. And, occasionally you'd see a guy like Lou Williams that would be point guard or shooting guard eligibility, or some of these forwards, power forward or small forward. But now it's like all over the map. Like you and I were joking the other day that Draymond Green had point guard eligibility this week. It's just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, I mean they moved Draymond to point guard instantly after he played one game at point guard. There's a lot of players on DraftKings that are multi-positional that do not play their position or have never played their position. A couple of them, Ben Simmons, he's small forward eligible, so he's never played small forward in his life. He's played shooting guard a little bit, and obviously point guard is primary spot. But when you add that, now he has guard eligibility and forward eligibility, so you could play him in what, like over 50% of the spots. Like when you have all the players with guard and forward eligibility, that's where it creates massive chalk and massive ownership. The only people you're not seeing probably massive ownership on are centers, because only center only eligible people, because you can only fit them in 2 spots, but everyone else you can fit them in 4 6 spots. So it's like it's crazy. I know another one, another person that I kind of that also shouldn't be multi-position is Pascal Siakam. He is power forward and center eligible. He's never played center in his life. Maybe for like a couple of minutes, but like, yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be multi-position.
Yeah, I think this falls in line with what we're talking about with DraftKings. We like to credit them for when they're innovative. Sometimes they're overly innovative. I know a few years back when they got rid of late swap and they tried to pawn it off to us that it was so everybody can enjoy their family time, and it's like us hardcore guys, this is what we do. It's not like our family understands that this is what we're spending time doing, and to just throw money down the drain with no late swap. And so I anticipate the more people talk about it, the more they'll tighten it up, because that no late swap only lasted for a year. So hopefully DraftKings does something about it, because it's really annoying. I mean, in a sense it's fun, but at the same time, where's the edge if it's, like last night with the Warriors, you and I were just, that was our night was ruined because this team just all of a sudden has 8 guys and they're down 30 in the first quarter, and it's like, where's the fun in this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with late swap, because late swap has helped me a lot and it's also hurt me a lot. So like after like yesterday, like swapping to all these Warriors, I got off the Spurs, so that screwed me. But like other times in the season, late swap has definitely helped. When I earlier this season, I bigged the minimax like early this season, and I believe it was because after lock, I think it was someone was ruled out on the Heat, and I slammed Kendrick Nunn, and Nunn was only 7% owned, and he had like a really good game, and that helped me win. But other times, like yesterday where I'm slamming Warriors, it doesn't work out. So but it's always important to like try to utilize that, even if it might not work, I think.
Yeah, and that's where I think focusing on your process over your profit, so to speak, is a good way to go, because we see this almost on a nightly basis. And I think for some people that are playing NBA for the first time, with seeming less variance in the other sports, that we think we should cash every single night. And it's like, you look at a night like Monday night where it's, Tristan Thompson night, and he's the second worst game of the year, and everybody that's playing NBA for the first time in my life is talking about what a bad play it was. And it's like, it was the right play, it just didn't work out, so and that's one of the things that I think is a big struggle right now, because I haven't looked yet, but I don't even want to know how much better my lineups would have done if I didn't swap onto all the Warriors. And then the mental battle starts, where it's like, it's very easy to talk yourself into doing stuff that's, negative expected value just because you got burned by it recently. Like, oh, next time this happens, I'm not going to do that. And then it's like, well, if it hits, you're drawing dead. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you. I've definitely had a very hard mental struggle with just a lot of swaps and a lot of just changing lineups based on injuries. And sometimes it's really hard for me to get over. I think even yesterday, like I had Shaq Harrison in my lineup. Once Draymond went out, then it became like Amari Spellman, like Patty Mills became Bowman, and like it led to it obviously didn't work out as well. But and then the whole night it's just like wondering like what if, like why did I do that? And you just have to sleep on it, wake up the next day and be like, today's a new day, like whatever, it happened, and try to move on.
Yeah, that's really well said, because that is something that I struggled with as well. And then it just got to the point where I was like, hey, you know what? I've got to tone down my volume. I got to get some wins under my belt, build my confidence back up, and not overreact. We still have so much season left, and I think we're just now starting to see some of these projection sites that we use settle in a little bit more than in the beginning of the year when it was just the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's crazy to think we're only, a month into the season. There's just so much more basketball left, so many more injuries. Actually, as per injuries in game, though, it hasn't been too bad. I don't think so. But
That part's been really nice. Yeah, the headed to the locker rooms. I mean, I can get over. I would much rather that happen. Yeah, I think the best night I was looking at, everything was clicking, and then I had 50% of Karl Anthony Towns the night that he decided to get into a wrestling match with Embiid.
oh
So
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
I would much rather have a night like last night where we knew where the value was. It just didn't get there. Than be on a guy and he's just low owned. No one has him. He's going to shoot you up the standings, and then he gets hurt or whatever.
yeah, for sure.
So walk us through that mini max win, because that was really impressive, and you had told me a little bit more about your logic behind why you pivoted to none that night. Walk us through what you saw that no one else saw that night.
I mean, that was the beginning of the season, and I don't think a lot of people really knew who Kendrick Nunn was at the beginning of the season. I played, it was either summer league or preseason DFS or both, and he was very good, both in both those aspects. And I don't think, because he was kind of an unknown and a rookie, so I don't think people really knew his potential. And they're like, oh, like whatever, like I never heard of him, I'm not going to swap to him. I think it was Winslow. I think they declared Winslow out. I think that's what it was. It was like at like 7:15, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to increase his projection, Dragic, and whoever else on the Heat. And I think I wound up with like 40% Kendrick Nunn. He was like 7% owned. So basically that small thing helped me a lot, uh, to pretty much win and come first. So which was nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's where one of the things I try to encourage people is just think for yourself. A lot of the times, it's much easier to do in a sport like football or baseball, where there's going to be a lot of failure. But with basketball, it's more of a challenge, and I think that if somebody is struggling with something like that, it might come from having too much money in play. I know that I tend to not care, and I'll do all sorts of stuff over the map. Like I played 100% of Ryan Finley last week in football, but it's not going to work out. But if you don't have that much money in play, like who cares? You can try again tomorrow. So there's ways to overcome it. And for someone like you that's seen a lot, and that's just like one of my favorite things about connecting with you is like I'm not as calm and as steady as you are. Like when things aren't going well, like my world's falling apart, and when I'm winning, I'm never going to lose again. And I've tried to get more balance, but I still struggle with it. And then, talking to you definitely helps. So, I try to encourage people, like connect with people in the community. There's so many chats out there. Start making friends with this thing, because that more than anything is the thing that helps me the most. When I'm struggling and I see people like you doing well or Jordan doing well, it's like, okay, like, my guys are figuring it out. I'm very similar to these guys. Like I'm going to figure it out. And then, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, did I start figuring it out because I was feeling better, or I don't know, but it works,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it might sound like I'm completely level-headed, but trust me, everyone has nights where they fly off the handle and get like super mad. But just the important thing is just kind of just like, no matter how bad I get or whatever, it's just like just wake up the next day and like stay course, and just try to do the same thing. Well, I mean, obviously not the same thing if it didn't work, but like doing whatever you do, and playing the same amount,
Yeah, I think that's really key, because it can be very challenging to see people take shots and it pay out, and then you think about that could have been me, or what if I did that,
Oh, I've definitely been in that position.
Yeah, that's part of what's plagued me this season. End of baseball season. One of the best baseball players in the world posted a $50,000 screenshot, and the night that he did that, I had a lineup in the $8 contest that outscored his by 10. So he was talking about how grateful he was about having the ability to win that, and how grateful he was for DFS. And I was thinking, you should have been grateful that my ass can't afford to play in that contest yet, because that would have been my money. So yeah, dude, it's just crazy, like the mental battle of this thing. And it's like you get so absorbed in it, and then you take a step back and you're like, if this is the biggest problem I have in my life, like I'm doing pretty good, you know?
Yeah. And like, yeah, I mean, another thing is like kind of letting like you said, like sometimes like people could win, you might be jealous or be like that could have been me, but the important thing to realize is like that's not your life, and that money doesn't affect you. Like if they won money, they'll lose money. That doesn't affect you. So like like you shouldn't really try to get mad about it, and try more so just be happy for the person. Be like, hey, that's awesome, you won. Hopefully I'll do the same the next day or whatever.
Yeah, that's a really evolved way to look at it. And, I talk to my wife about this sometimes, a lot of the times, and I'm just like venting to her, and she's like, she'll always say something along the lines of like, you don't know like what that person has going on. That might be the difference between them, being able to help a family member, or this might be the best thing that's happened to them in a very long time, where, people for the most part that play DFS have pretty good lives. And so, I think that's so healthy to, instead of being jealous, to be like, hey man, like good for them, and for all we know, for some of these guys that bink stuff out of nowhere, they might not know what they're doing. So there's a good chance that the money that they're going to lose in the future will come back to us because they just got lucky with a bad strategy.
But I mean, as for strategy though, I don't really know a right or wrong way to play. Obviously not a tout. But I I mean, I do think like a lot of people will criticize me sometimes for like slamming like a chalk player, but I feel like sometimes in NBA you kind of need to do that because they're chalk for a reason. They're not they're high owned and they're in a good spot. They're low price. You're gonna slam them. There's a reason to slam them. You know, it's it's hard. I think it's like a lot of other people say no, you shouldn't do that because you're not gaining anything on everyone else, which is right in a sense, but I disagree with that. That's just the way I play.
Well, and I agree with you because that's how I play as well. And they're right. You're not going to be different if that guy does well, but you're done if the guy does and you don't have him.
Yeah.
If you didn't have Luca last night, like you're not winning. It's just that's
Yeah.
just how it goes. If you don't have Dinwiddie on Monday night, like you're not winning. So
The funny thing about that is actually that is not true because on Monday, which was shocking to me, somehow I might have came up with like the completely like opposite like 1% lineup or whatever. I finished second in the Minimax on Monday, I think, and I did not have Dinwiddie, who hit for like 8.5x or something, which was insane to me. So I mean, it's not always like that. Sometimes you could get lucky, but
and that's okay too, because I think that it's the times where you win when maybe it wasn't appearing from your exposures that you should have, to offset the nights where everything you did perfectly and barely profited or broke even on a night where you couldn't have done anything better.
yeah.
Well, I mean, this is what makes DFS so fun is it's ever changing, and I don't get too discouraged when it's not going well. I'll throw a pity party and then I'm over it. It's like I'm already looking forward to the next opportunity where and that's one of the things that I like the most is when it's almost when things don't work out that it opens your eye to something that can be way more lucrative and way more consistent or profitable. And it's almost like, dude, like if all this stuff is going well for me, I wouldn't even put in the work to figure out this new angle that I think could be way, way better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's awesome, man. So what is your what's your plan for the rest of NBA season in terms of, are you just going to continue to stay where you're at, or do you have a jump off point to where, hey, you know what, I think I want to start dipping my toes into some of this bigger stuff?
Yeah, that's been kind of I think I've been struggling with personally over the season. I like said earlier this season or earlier before NBA that I would like to move up to mid stakes, the $8, the $12, whatever, instead of just playing the mini max. I did it one day on Friday. I did it one day, pretty much got my like ass handed to me, and then ever since then I was like, I'll probably just stick with the mini max for now. And but so, like maybe sometime in the future I'll try moving up to that, but like I'd like to build a little bit higher bankroll before I could do that because I know that that's a massive jump. You're going from playing whatever $2, 250 times 150 entries because 50 cent $2 minimax to now you're playing more than double that. So because it'd be I think it's $8 mid for like the low stakes, so you're almost even like three times as much money. So that's a massive jump, and you lose that for like 2, 3, 4 days. That's a lot of money
Yeah, it's very hard to separate because I've done that, and I've actually done that recently where I it's just so crazy how we talk ourselves into stuff. There was I've been doing really well in 2 game slates, and last Monday I played I think 20 entries into the big, I think it was like the big $10 or whatever, and I basically broke even, but my 116th lineup that I didn't play in that contest would have been tied for first, and I would have got a 3-way split of like $72,000. So of course, like the next 2 days, I chase it and play all 150, and I lose, and it's just like it's so like that's like it's so hard because it's like unless you're super lucrative and you can reload anytime, for us that are trying to make a living off of this, we can't really afford to get too aggressive trying to take those life-changing shots because a couple, like you said, it was 3 or 4 days, and I set out with the mission of I can sustain this for about a month. After 4 days, I was ready to quit. After I quit, I did quit. I was like, I can't do this, man. This is not for me
And
right
like
now.
as per like the Maniacs, I don't believe that it was $2 last year. I think it was $1 last year. I think the $2 actually like a pretty good tournament with like a decent payout, and it's not too much. So like for like low stakes grinders like me, or I think the $2 is a pretty good contest they have going on right now.
Is there a minimum threshold that you look at for deciding if you're going to max something? Like, do you want 10 extra money, 15 extra money, 5 extra money?
For me personally, no. I'll play the same. I literally play the same thing every day. And another thing I actually changed on real quick into the start of the season was, so they have 50 cent and they have a $2 mini max. At the start of the season, I was playing 300 lineups, and then I realized I don't think that's the right way to play. So I just play 150 lineups every night. I pretty much do both mini maxes, same lineups, pretty much everything, 25 cents and under, winner take alls, boosters, stuff like that.
Are you playing any of the like the $4 20 maxes or anything like that?
Yeah, I for those contests, like I'll do those are just random lineups. I know other people they'll make like 170 lineups instead of 150. That'll be like it's I put in pretty much like 15 random lineup because I'll put in my cash lineup in that like 5 times, and so yeah, I mean I'll play those, but and like there's been a few times where like when I won the Vegas, I'm like, man, I wish that lineup got the $4 because that would be like 10,000. But I mean, I haven't gotten that lucky yet.
Yeah, that is my hope and prayer every single day. Is if I run hot, let me be lucky enough that this can move the needle the most. But it's funny because I just watched Home Alone last night, and
Disney Plus.
not on Disney Plus. It was on the Freeform network, but there's that scene where it's called the Buzz Math is what it's where he's talking about, is Kevin going to be okay? And Buzz is like, A, we live in the boringest neighborhood in all of America. 2, no, Kevin's going to be just fine. And D, I'm not that lucky. So like, that's always like that's how I keep myself centered. It's like, dude, like you're not that lucky. Just keep your head down and keep grinding this thing out. So,
I mean, everyone runs good, everyone runs bad. Like sometimes we'll tell people like, "Oh man, you run so good," but everyone has moments. whether it be good or bad, you know.
Oh
And
yeah, it's very rare for me to just be, consistent profit. It's either struggles or just white hot, white hot.
yeah. I mean, but that's why I pretty much play cash in I play cash for NBA both sites, and that pretty much that helps a lot with like tournament if you're struggling in tournaments because I think cash for NBA is it's a lot simpler than what people think.
Yeah, that's one thing that you've been encouraging me to look into, and it's getting to the point where I'm going to have to. But talk to us a little bit about your philosophy on bankrolling, tournaments from cash games.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just getting in a habit. I used to hate playing. I thought cash was stupid. I thought it was dumb. This is probably about 2, 3 years ago or whatever, 2 years ago, even 2 years ago. I only started playing cash like pretty much last year, and it's just a nice thing to have. I mean, like it's a lot easier to win than what people think. Like there's not people say like cash is dead, this and that, but it's not really as sharp as I think DraftKings is a little harder, but FanDuel you can kind of just like you can pick your players. You can pick like 4 or 5 players, before the day, kind of just lock them in, and then just look at what surrounds it and go from there.
Now, when you are distributing your bankroll, allocating it cash wise, how much of that is head to heads versus double ups, triple ups?
It depends on the site. It's site dependent. For me personally, I don't play too many head to. I don't play too many head to heads. I know a lot of people they love head to heads. I think it's great. They are great. I do a lot of three mans. I'm sure anyone, if you're looking at a three-man lobby for $1 and $2, you'll see my name on DraftKings. Pretty much, I do three mans, double ups, and I pretty much don't even play anything over $5, even except for a few tournaments. And on FanDuel, what I like about it, they have they have a big $2 double up, and you can put in 150 entries. On DraftKings, they only have like a 20 max double up, and on FanDuel, they also have quintuple ups, which are not that hard to. And you can put in up to 150 entries in that, and those help a lot when they hit. You can put in 50 entries, and you're getting back $500 off $100. And pretty much just do that. Um, just $2 double ups, $1 double ups, head to heads, three bands, and just probably about I'd say probably only about like 20% of what I play in cash is in tournaments, and like the other 80% is just cash games.
Okay, so interesting. So that was going to be my next question. Is you're still adhering to the 80-20 principle with 80% in cash?
Yeah, I mean, but as for tournaments, I like I said, I don't play tournaments on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, the 80-20 is for just my cash lineup. For tournaments on DraftKings, I pretty much just do the same thing every day. I don't really have a set
I got you. Okay.
percent. I mean, it comes out, it's just both mini maxes, whatever, 25 cent winner take all boosters, all like $2 and $5 and under, pretty much.
Okay. I got you. Man, that's incredible because it's I think there's something to be said about the I don't know if this is the right word, but just like kind of keeping things boring, you know, like it just there's just something very um, there's a lot of value in just the consistent approach of just showing up every day, win or lose. I know
Yeah.
that what I'm doing at some point is going to have that the expected value that I anticipate having. So, I mean that I think this is going to be encouraging for a lot of people because this is something that I definitely need a refresher on right now because I think it's just my competitive nature that I just want to just take a flamethrower to everything and be as big as possible and not enjoy the journey. And it's like
Yeah.
when I'm enjoying the journey, like it's almost like when I don't care about winning, I win a lot.
Yeah. like if people would be like, oh, why you play cash? Like you're just doubling your money or tripling your money. And it's like, well, yeah, is that a problem? Like, I'll double, triple my money, sure, in cash. Like it might not be the most exciting thing as playing tournaments, but it helps. It's not, it's real money I'm getting back.
Well, yeah, and it's like if you started out, like let's say you just were able to double up $50 every single night. Like that's not like life changing, but like if you worked that way up to where you could turn your 500 into another 500 or even 300, over the course of the year, that's over 100 grand. Like that's
Yeah.
some huge compound interest right there.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously you're not going to win every day, but but I'll win, more than 50% of the days. So I'll be up.
I'm currently gonna send a DM right now to Muley. I think it's time for me to venture into cash.
Yeah, I chat with him decent amount. He's a great cash guy. He knows his stuff. You just talk to people. There's so many people. Like I said, like you said this before. There's so many people I talk to every day about DFS, and everyone is great people. Every single person I've met, so many people over the years, and everyone's been great. And everyone just like it's not it's better, like I don't know how to say it. Like yeah, it's important to get input from other people, even if it's bad or good. Obviously.
Oh yeah, I totally agree because that's one of the things that's been helping me the last couple of weeks is picking your brain on stuff. Hey, what are you doing? What are you seeing? And then applying that to my process. Like I've been anti randomness for forever and a day, and I think that's part of the issue with people that aren't around anymore and not adapting is it's more important for them to be right than for them to win. And it's like I was starting to notice that with myself, and it's like, look, man, I would prefer to have whenever I do my crunch for it to be consistent, give me the same thing back every single time. But I'm starting to look at how some of the changes they've made with the new randomness on FC Pro. And it's like most of the time, like what it gives me with even something as small as like 15% randomness is better than my top score without it. So it's like, do I embrace being uncomfortable or do I stubbornly stick to, what worked in the past but isn't working right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to adapt sometimes. And I think that, especially with DFS, you're either an early adapter, you get in before it's too late, or it passes you by. It can be very unforgiving in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Still early in the season, still plenty of time left, and just yeah.
Well, I think the other thing that's really awesome is, when they started rolling out the dime times last year, they're really tiny. They weren't, you and I have been a big fan of theirs, but some people are like, what is this $2 going to do? But like for the NBA, it's like $40 to first. You can turn $2 into $40, and the tournament size is, I think it's under 5,000. Like that has become like a great tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said before on the last time podcast, it's just they have so many satellites every day for these tickets. I'm pretty much, I play every satellite pretty much like 25 cents and under, probably actually like $3 and under, whatever. And I think now I'm up to about a little bit over 40, like $25 tickets, which is, that's a decent amount. That's over $1,000 for whatever Christmas contest they roll out. And that's all just on, like 25 cents and dollar satellites.
Yeah, that's a great way to go. That's one of my favorite ways to build like that. It's funny that tournament has become like my favorite, like part of my favorite Christmas morning tradition now. And I have a funny story. Like 2 years ago, I think I had like 116 tickets into it, and lineup lock for us on the West Coast is 9 a.m. My wife wants to open presents at like 9:30. And I'm building lineups, and this is during the late swap season, and I was using Fantasy Labs at the time, and you had to designate whether you're building late swap lineups or non-late swap lineups. And I just foolishly, this is back before I understood like how like, rotations work and stuff like that. So I'm just like constantly refreshing the optimizer, and I wait till the absolute last minute, build my lineups, only to realize that they're the non-late swap, or they're the late swap lineups. And so my CSV failed. So I have like $400 in tickets. My wife's getting ready to like, make some hot chocolate, open presents, and I'm like tilting my balls off, and it's just like. So this last year, I like made sure like that we didn't make that mistake again, and then we started opening presents this year. My wife's like, "You sure you're good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good this time." So, but yeah, like that's a great tournament. I think it's $25 entry. I think last year was like 300,000 to first, and it's like it'll be a massive tournament. But hey, hanging around, it's a 4-game slate, 5-game slate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that because. I mean, $25, obviously that's a ton to max at 150. So I'm just hoping that one of these tickets of one of my 150 lineups will hopefully be the right one, and I'm not, crying at the end of the night realizing like could have won, like 100,000 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that can be a challenge because it can mess with you to, we get really good at winning these tickets, and then we hop in a big tournament like that, and all of a sudden we want to do something completely different. And it's like, that's not the time to do that. The time to do that is in the dime times, not on the big contest there. And I think having realistic expectations is key as well. Like whenever I have satellite tickets, my goal used to be like, oh, I want to win the Millionaire Maker. Now my goal is just like, if I can just win the cash equivalent of what these tickets are worth, knowing that I got in at, a 50 to 70% discount, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, last week for NFL, pretty much like I've had a few Millie Maker tickets, and like pretty much like I just like woke up, I was like, all right, well, I would just like do like a few lineups, just made like a few like optimal lineups and just put them in. Got like like I think they all like mid cash for like $30 or something. But I was like, all right, whatever, I'll take the free cash and move on.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. If you put in 20 tickets at $20 value, that you pretty much got them all for, maybe $100, you turn that into 400, that's a $300 profit for somebody that's, working with $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 bankroll. That's a nice chunk right there. That's a really good, return on your investment for, and getting to take a shot in something like that for, to get a chance to experience what it feels like. I think there's value in that as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like a lot of, like, probably like a lot of people who are playing, these low and mid stakes, they probably would never even, would venture. Like people paying, the $1.50 or whatever, you win a ticket, that's huge for them. If you're winning a $25 off like 10 cents or 25 cents or whatever, that's a $25 ticket on 25 cents. It's 100 times your money. So it's like it's a big deal for them to win a ticket like that.
Oh yeah, I have one of my buddies, Brandon. He won a FanDuel ticket off of like 10 cents. He won 2 of them for like I think $1,800 in total tickets, and then the week after was able to just basically min cash. So he took like 25 cents and turned it into like $1,800. It's like that matters. Like that's huge. That's like winning. That's winning one mini max and a half at the 50-cent level.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I've even heard like even like I haven't done it, but one of my buddies was telling me that on FanDuel, pretty much they run a ton of satellites and hardly any of them like even fill. So like if you're on FanDuel, just you can look out for the satellites and like they don't even fill half the time. And I mean, especially if you're like a lower stakes GPP player, like just throw a lot up in. They're like 5 cent, 25 cent.
Yeah, I think when we first started playing DFS, the hot buzzword was overlay this and overlay that, and people made it sound like if you found an overlaid tournament, you were just printing money every single night. But no one tells you actually have to do somewhat well to make money. But that is one of the areas where there's actually true overlay still left at the lower stakes. Is you see it a lot with FanDuel. I think during baseball season, I was able to max out the $9 tournament on FanDuel for the opening NFL Millionaire Maker that they ran. And
Uh-huh.
the cool thing that FanDuel does that DraftKings does not do, that I wish they would do, is after you – so on DraftKings, when you max out a tournament, they send the email like they sent to you and me that said stop entering these satellites. Where on FanDuel, they actually will cash those out for cash. But hey, tell us that story because I know that story. Tell us the story of how you got the email that basically said, "Will
I mean, pretty much this was for I think the NBA game finals showdown. They started running satellites, I guess, in like January or February or whatever. And through satellites, I was able to get 150 tickets, and like I kept entering them because like when I'm entering stuff, it's just like just filter it 25 cent whatever at all. I don't really look at what type of satellite it is, and then I got an email there like just like stop entering them because you must reach your limit. So I was like, all right, I'll be more careful, and stop doing that. I mean, I'm hoping to get up to. I'm hoping to get up to 150 Christmas tickets, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, it's a good goal. I mean, if you break it down, it's like 3-4 a day, and it can be done. But yeah, you have to run pretty pure to get it. But yeah, it's funny. Like that email that you got is almost like the equivalent of like just being really good at blackjack in a casino, telling you that your money's not good here anymore.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on about stories about this. This goes back to gambling. I've been limited on several sites by now, which is what some people. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. These sites they'll limit you if you win enough from them, and it sucks. And you're playing and you're doing well, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, all right, we're not taking your action anymore.
That's where I have a really big issue is they're happy to prey on people's addictions and just take and you start sticking it back to them, and all of a sudden that just seems really shady to me.
Yeah, I mean a few sites. I mean, I think it was like, and it's not even like I was playing that long or even took that much money from them. One site, Bet365, they limited me after maybe a month, and I didn't even, it was like, I don't know, I profited maybe like 3K, like it wasn't even that much. It was like 3 or 4K. They're like, we think you're sharp. We're not gonna take your action anymore. We're limiting you. Another site, PointsBet, they did the same thing to me. FanDuel has done the same thing to me, and I know TK Sportsbook is probably coming soon, but I hope not. But yeah, it's crazy how fast all these sites limit you for betting, and you always got to be looking for new sites and new places to bet and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really shady to me because and I get they're trying to protect themselves because there are betting factions out there that have you hear all these stories about like these Russian syndicates that move the line, and they have Ashton Kutcher going to sports books to place big bets for them. Like I get that, but it's just kind of like the everyday guy like us that's just happy to finally be able to start winning all of a sudden get treated like that. It's very hypocritical, very shady.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I can't tell you. I mean. But it happens. Some people are real. Like I've told people that, and they're like, "Wait, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, like just limit you like that. Like it's not even. Yeah, it's crazy."
Well, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's always great catching up to you. Now that catching up with you. Now that I got the home studio set up, we'll have to do this more often. Man, I wish you all the best on your sports betting contest on DraftKings. I would love nothing more to see you win $250,000, man. That's why we do this, is to put ourselves in a position to just do something where we don't have to worry about money for a while.
Yeah, it would definitely be something. It'd help a lot. Obviously, it'd be one of my biggest wins ever. So hopefully that happens, and I mean, I wish obviously the best of luck for you. I know you've been struggling a bit, and hopefully things turn around after today. And good luck to anyone else. If anyone has any questions about anything, like DMs are open on Twitter or whatever. If people want to talk, let me know.
Give us your Twitter handle.
Yeah, my Twitter handle, in case anyone didn't know, is at William Bierman, which is just my name, at WILLIAMBIERMAN.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. It's been great being able to lean on you and get some encouragement to try to sort this NBA stuff out. I have no doubt I'll get it figured out. And then, somewhere down the line when you're struggling, feel free to just lean back on me, man. I'm happy to pick you up when you need it, buddy.
For sure, man. Thank you, yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Catch this on any of the podcast formats, YouTube, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Making me manic. The way you been on me, you're making me panic. The way you been on me, don't make it a habit of preaching for passion and addiction. Give me a job, I give her the business. See what she saw, be quiet regardless. Keep leading me on, cause your body is flawless, girl. She be calling up, I be hanging up. She be balling, I do it to make her nuts. Yeah, she love me, but baby, it ain't enough. I keep fucking the friends to shake it up. Find a better man, leave me jettison. Dating the devil's a hell of a medicine. She like never that, I can never leave. It's confusing, but here's what she said to me. All I ever wanna do is spend the rest of time with you. It takes a special kind of fool to spend the rest of time with you. All I ever wanna do is spend the rest of time with you. It takes a special kind of fool to spend the rest of time with you. Girl, I'm too good, something you shouldn't want. You didn't listen, now you're slipping and caught. I'm stuck in my old ways, but you cannot stop. Hugs in the hallway and feel your heart drop. I open the door for you, run to the store for you, make some good love for you. Chivalry's overdue, working so hard for you, writing a song for you, making good love to you. I'm coming through, I'm the nicest of nice. Cover the sun, have the nicest of nights. Shopping mall runs, no matter the price. We'll always have fun, ignoring the fights. You'll always be right, I'll always be wrong. Keeping it light, never headstrong. You'll be alright, you just need to move on. Turn on that mic and hear you sing along.